Hello, live tonight on the latest from 7 News. Scott Morrison's retirement replacement just decided the candidate the Libs hope can keep his old seat. A pre-selection style budget on the way in May. Exclusive details. Profits put back into our pockets. Calling out a catastrophe, Kamala Harris criticises Israel before a meeting with a Netanyahu rival. And Alistair Clarkson's outburst apology not good enough for the AFL as the player he sprayed prepares to face the tribunal.
This is the latest from 7 News.
Good evening and welcome. He has big shoes to fill and an upcoming by-election to win. Scott Morrison's replacement as the Liberal candidate for Cook has just been voted on. We'll go live now to Angelique Opie, who is outside the pre-selection meeting in Sydney South. Angelique, who won?
Rob, he's relatively new to the Liberal Party. Simon Kennedy, he was once a partner at consulting firm McKinsey. He's been praised for his corporate experience and he once ran for the seat of Bennelong. 300 people voted tonight after hearing the pitches from all candidates. Kennedy took out the lion's share of votes, 158. Quite the difference compared to the other frontrunner, Carmelo Pesce. Pesce is the local mayor here in the Sutherland Shire. He's been backed by several key power brokers within the Liberal Party. On the contrary, Simon Kennedy is not a local. We spoke to him just a few moments ago.
Very humbled, but I just went out there and listened to members tonight. And what I heard was a lot of concern about cost of living, a lot of concern about interest rate rises, a lot of concern about energy prices, and a lot of anger from some of those members about this Labor-induced cost of living crisis that they feel, and they want someone to fight for them, to hold federal Labor to account.
Cook here is a very safe blue ribbon seat. It's been held by the Liberal Party since 1975. Rob, from here, Kennedy will go straight to the by-election. A date for that is yet to be announced.
Thanks, Angelique. Angelique Opie reporting there for us live in Sydney South. We can reveal tonight the upcoming May federal budget will prioritise billions of dollars in cost of living support. One option being considered is subsidies for power prices to offset rising financial pressures. 7 News understands the government will no longer use budget windfalls to pay off debt, instead redirecting higher commodity prices and tax income towards new relief. Stage 3 tax cuts are the single largest new element of the papers. They'll cost about $20 billion in the first year.
If we can afford to give additional meaningful cost of living help in the budget in May, of course we will consider doing that.
Brittany Higgins is preparing to meet face-to-face with her old boss Linda Reynolds for court-ordered mediation. The former federal minister has accused Ms Higgins and her partner David Shiraz of using social media to defame her. The two-day talks will take place in Perth from tomorrow. If there is no compromise, it could head to a 6-week trial. There are reports tonight a judge will take the rare step of taking part in the negotiations. We're expecting an apology from Queensland's Premier tomorrow after he was accused of misleading Parliament. It centres around a text. Steve Miles denied sending a message to factional ally Ali King during question time last year as she was facing criticism for a health jobs controversy. As it turns out, there is photographic evidence he did. His office says he'll correct the record in the morning. The opposition will use the mistake to question the Premier's integrity, saying his lies will be prosecuted in Parliament. Well, let's go to Tyra Stowers in Melbourne now, where the AFL has asked Alistair Clarkson to explain a foul-mouthed rant. Tyra, quite an outburst. How is he defending it?
Rob, good evening. Alistair Clarkson's temper has landed him in new trouble. Now, the North Melbourne coach lashed out after his captain was flattened by a brutal hit. Clarkson says it was an emotional defence of Jai Simpkin, who'd been knocked out by Saints player Jimmy Webster. Now, he has since apologised for the exchange, saying his response was unnecessary and inappropriate. The AFL's main concern is the alleged language used and his approach to players. Now, based on his response, they'll decide whether to take further action. As for everyone else involved, Jai Simpkin is now recovering from a third concussion in just 12 months, and Jimmy Webster will go to the tribunal tomorrow night, with the Saints bracing to be without Webster for weeks.
He's devastated. He's really concerned for Jai. Very remorseful, but it was a split-second action. Go to the tribunal. Clearly, there's no defence to it. And, you know, we always support the person and change the behaviours.
Now, Webster says he deeply regrets the knock and has since reached out to Jai, but he faces a suspension of anywhere in the range of 6 to 10 weeks. Rob?
Tyra Sowers in Melbourne. More to come on this. Thank you for joining us. What happens in Vegas will not stay in Vegas for Spencer Leniu. The Roosters prop is heading home tonight, referred straight to the NRL judiciary for an alleged racial slur against Ezra Mam. It happened during the opening round in Sin City. Brisbane's 5'8" claims he was called a monkey mid-match. He has formally complained. 7 News has been told Leniu confronted Broncos players, including Katoni Staggs, at their shared team hotel and admitted to making the comment. A hearing date is yet to be decided. If found guilty, the Roosters enforcer faces a lengthy suspension. We have details just in on new moves by the government to capitalise on trade in one of the fastest growing regions in the world, Southeast Asia. Political reporter Rob Scott is at the ASEAN summit. Rob, what's been announced tonight?
Well, Rob, trade with our Southeast Asian neighbours is already valued at around $180 billion. That's more than the two-way trade with the United States and Japan. But with the ASEAN economy expected to grow to become the 4th largest in the world by 2040, Anthony Albanese says there are a lot more opportunities that could and should be seized. Now, last year, the government revealed its blueprint to capitalise on those opportunities, and tomorrow the Prime Minister will add to that plan, announcing the establishment of a $2 billion investment financing facility, which will provide loans and guarantees to help Australian businesses break into that Southeast Asian market. So-called regional landing pads are also going to be set up in Ho Chi Minh City and Jakarta. They will provide on-the-ground support to Australian businesses looking to drive exports into Southeast Asia. The government's also going to improve access to longer-term visas for Southeast Asian travellers, extending them from 3 to 5 and 10-year offerings. And as you said, this summit's not just about trade. Regional security is a hot-button issue. The Foreign Minister, Penny Wong, used a speech to delegates today to warn that the future prosperity of this region relies on maintaining peace and stability. And while she didn't mention China by name, she said that it is a shared responsibility to ensure that no one country dominates or is dominated.
The stakes are clear. We know that a major conflict in our region would be devastating to our communities and economies, as the terrible conflicts in Gaza and Ukraine have shown. So we all have a responsibility to shape the region we want.
A draft ASEAN-Australia statement, which will be released at the end of this summit, is expected to show that the leaders will take a collective swipe at Beijing, saying that any differences in this region should be managed through dialogue and not through the use of or the threat of force. Security in Melbourne over the past couple of days and for the next few days will remain tight as these leaders continue arriving into the city ahead of high-level talks on Wednesday. Rob
Scott, thank you. Well, the US Vice President is set to meet with an Israeli War Cabinet Minister overnight after issuing a stern rebuke over the humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
Given the immense scale of suffering in Gaza, there must be an immediate ceasefire.
In one of the sharpest comments yet by a senior American leader, Kamala Harris said Israel must open new border crossings and not restrict the delivery of aid. Talks on a ceasefire stalled after Israel refused to send a delegation to Egypt for negotiations. Well, joining me tonight in the studio is Dr. Eyal Mayroz, an expert on peace and conflict studies at the University of Sydney. Doctor, thanks for joining us. We rarely see America so sternly rebuked, certainly in public. Pressure is building, but is that message getting through?
Well, I think we need to start with the overall picture, and the overall picture is that the population of Gaza is starving, and the Israeli government, the Hamas, but also the Americans and the rest of the world are playing politics. Indeed, important politics, crucial and significant politics, but it's politics. So I think what the Americans have been trying to do for a while now and are finding it very difficult is to play both sides. So in terms of the domestic favor for them and for their policy, they don't lose the left wing of the Democratic Party, but also they don't lose the center that is more pro-Israelis, and they're not doing a good job so far.
They can be as vociferous as they like behind closed doors, but to do it so publicly, I mean, what message does that send to Israel, especially since the person to whom Kamala Harris is speaking, Benny Gantz, is a political rival of Benjamin Netanyahu?
I think the main message is to Netanyahu that the Americans are losing patience, and at some point they will use a number of leverage that they have over Israel. And one of them, as you can see, is talking to his rival and to the likely prime minister in case we have an early election, because at the moment Gantz is enjoying a lot more popularity in Israel than Netanyahu.
A strong leader like him, that's humiliating, isn't it?
I think that was the message. I'm not sure it helped, because Netanyahu is really struggling to appease the ultra right wing of his government, that if they leave the government falls, and that's for Netanyahu the end of his political career. So whether or not the Americans have done enough, I don't think they have.
Well, President Biden was hoping for a ceasefire before Ramadan. He was optimistic. Should he be, especially with such a bold move?
I think it is very difficult to say. I think both sides have, on one hand, vested interest in a ceasefire, but at the same time, they are very cautious about the cost to them of that ceasefire, and whether or not the incentive and the, if you like, the American forcible imposition on both sides will be enough. It is hard to say. The holy month of Ramadan is coming, and if the fighting continues and even escalates during Ramadan, this will be a very bad call for everyone, including the Israelis, the Hamas, and the people of Gaza.
Now, since October 7, Israel has maintained it will persist, it will continue until Hamas is wiped out. What possible metric could they say that's been achieved?
I think everyone is now figuring out what it was, I think, clear from the start, that the Hamas cannot be fully wiped out. It can be damaged, and its capabilities can be damaged, but Hamas is an idea, and it's an extreme idea, and it cannot be wiped out, and the political solution has to come at some point. Netanyahu is resisting at the moment to move to the next, what we call the day after discussions.
Well, you say Hamas is an idea. To what extent would that idea be fostered in the minds of a 6-year-old boy or girl who has lost both parents?
That's, I think, a big problem, because by doing what Israel does now, which is mass killing of civilians in Gaza, a new generation of young Palestinians is growing up to hate Israel, and will make lasting peace much more difficult than it has been before the 7th of October.
Dr. Eyal Mayroz, we really appreciate your insights. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this week, 10 years ago, MH370 vanished into thin air. Ahead of the anniversary, a new no-find, no-fee proposal to solve the Malaysia Airlines mystery. An oceanographer discusses it. Plus, koala habitats hacked away with shameful, deadly consequences. Our exclusive feature report. We're back after this.
He's a legend, he's an icon, he's barely alive. John Cleese!
Australia's funniest are dishing it out.
You have come all the way from England to be smashed by a bunch of Aussies. Now you know what it feels like to be the English cricket team.
And he's giving it back.
You've given us Vegemite, kangaroos, Tim Tams and Rupert Murdoch.
The Roast of John Cleese premieres Tuesday, March 12 on 7 and 7+.
You know what's new with Kinder Surprise? It's the new Natoons Animal Collection. Scan your kid's toy and bring it to life in the Play-Doh app. Go ahead and roll on the floor with him. Good job, Kinder Surprise Natoons. Learn about animals with your kids.
The Murray-Darling rivers pump life through our nation, to our farms, communities and environment. But water's being overused, and the next drought is only a matter of time. We have to make sure there's enough water, otherwise the rivers may run dry. If we don't act, it could threaten our plants and animals, our food supply, and affect the drinking water of more than 3 million Australians. Find out how the Australian Government's plan will restore the Murray-Darling rivers. Authorised by the Australian Government, Canberra.
The hot cross bun. Deliciously polarising. There's the toasted with butter, the not toasted with butter, the toasted without butter, interesting, and perhaps most controversially the straight out of the baggers. You absolute savages. Well, they are baked fresh today, so maybe not. Hello, you okay?
Don't let muscle pain hold you back. Voltaren Gel relieves pain to get you moving sooner. It's not just movement, it's making their eyes light up. Voltaren, the joy of movement.
Scientists say it's impossible to distinguish a scream of fear from a scream of excitement. Both so intense, so wild, coming like a bursting impulse, so impossible to control. They thought it was just a coincidence. We don't. Because what you fear is what makes you feel.
You will find me by your side.
Nico Hines scores the try. All aboard!
Everyone's welcome here. There's plenty of room on the bandwagon.
The gospel praises are coming. I hear it yes and yes. I hear the car is moving. And it runs up to the man. Oh, get on board. Get on board. Get on board.
Hey, Gilly, we're going to need a bigger float.
There's no room in you. Get on board.
Escape in the all-new Tank 300. See you out there.
Start listening to Audible. With a 2-month free trial for a limited time only. Discover thousands of audiobooks, podcasts, and Audible originals. Try now at audible.com.au. T's and C's apply. See website for details.
Boys are moving to Wednesdays. With the Dacos brothers and Damien Hardwick dropping in, you can't miss the front bar on the new night, Wednesday 8:30.
Welcome back. This week marks 10 years since the disappearance of flight MH370. Tonight, Malaysia is adamant the search must go on. Government officials have confirmed they have invited a seabed exploration firm to discuss a new proposal. American company Ocean Infinity is hopeful it can narrow the search area after 2 failed attempts. The offer includes a no-find, no-fee option. Professor Charitha Patiarachi is an oceanographer at the University of Western Australia. He joins me now. Professor, good evening. The Malaysian government says if this evidence is credible, big if, it will move forward with a new search. Not a single theory has been proven yet, so how do you define credible here?
The credible means that we already, all the science and the physical evidence we have all to date has pointed to that particular region is where the plane is. So the question is that were we actually going to search again? Ocean Infinity is the same places they've done before, except that we want to go a little bit wider.
So if it does get underway, where do you think this search will even take place? You use the word region there. It's a big ocean.
It's a big ocean, but the plane had some evidence through Inmarsat, which actually said that what's called the so-called 7th arc. It's along that arc is where the last signals were found. And then we've looked at somewhere between 36 up to about 28 degrees latitude. It's a long one. And then we did oceanographic simulations, which said that if we actually had the crash site there and any debris coming from the flight would end up in the Western Indian Ocean, and that's what we actually found already. So we predicted where the debris would ended up.
It has been 10 years. How decayed would any wreckage be?
Oh, nothing would be decayed because we're looking at the ocean about 4 kilometers deep. And that's like having something in a fridge. The temperatures are very low, probably 1 or 2 degrees. So it's like putting something in the fridge for 10 years. And they're basically uncorrodable. So the large items, such as the wheels, the engines, the fins, etc., would still be there.
Professor, 6 Australians were on board MH370. By default, do you think that should mean Australia would support this new venture, or should it?
Australia should support it, but the main responsibility is from the Malaysian government.
How surprised are you that after all this time, authorities still haven't located it? I know it's extremely hard, it's an extremely large area, and there's every chance that maybe the pilot has done all he can to protect its location.
Yeah. That's possible. I'll give you an analogy. As you know, if you think of Tasmania, the size of the land size of Tasmania, and you're looking for a plane which is 100 meters long or less in Tasmania, and you're actually looking for that in a helicopter 4 kilometers up in the sky, that's tough to find it. But imagine actually doing it blindfolded. That is the challenge.
A big challenge indeed. Professor Charitha Patiarachi, thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
A story tonight that is distressing to watch but very important to tell. There are claims hundreds of koalas have been killed, injured or displaced by loggers cutting down their habitats at an alarming rate. Chief reporter Chris Reason has this exclusive feature report from South Australia's Kangaroo Island.
On the nature wonderland that is Kangaroo Island, they are clearing kilometres of unwanted blue gums. But among those trees, often high in the canopy, thousands of koalas. And tonight, outrage at what is happening to some. 7 News has obtained disturbing video showing them scrambling for their lives, being brought down with the trees. Wildlife campaigners in despair.
It blows my mind that it's being allowed to happen.
They believe hundreds are dying this way. These pictures just the tip of the iceberg.
It would be terrifying. I think it would probably equate to being in an earthquake consistently every day of your life. Dying, very slow death of injuries because no one is coming to help them.
4 years ago, the Black Summer bushfires devastated Kangaroo Island and its koalas, 80% wiped out.
A little koala rescue. There's a mother with a baby. Just trying to collect as many live ones as we can.
Hollywood stars raised millions to save them.
Any way I can help, I'm there.
18,000 hectares of timber plantations were also made useless and have to be cleared.
I think you're looking at the wrong picture.
The logging company refuses to comment on camera but insists they're providing the highest possible level of protection to the local animal population. The mayor agrees.
So I think they've gone over and above what's required. They're very cognizant of animal welfare.
Whistleblowers tell 7 News up to 15 a week were being injured last year. Most had to be put down.
After I stopped crying, I was just frustrated and angry. I probably haven't slept very well for the last couple of years.
The mayor says the issue is being blown out of proportion.
What do you say in response to those claims?
Look, I actually don't believe them.
So we showed him the videos.
I mean, you're a human being, you're a farmer, as you said before. That is distressing.
Yes, it is, but it's also distressing if I'm driving up this road on my way home at night and clobber a 5-foot root. They're getting persecuted because someone's got some video of one coming out of a tree. Clearly, every now and then one will probably go down.
Loggers say they use spotters, thermal imaging, always leaving trees containing koalas plus another 8 around it.
The loggers would argue that this is a case in point. Take a look up there, behind those leaves. 2 koalas spotted and saved, left to find their own natural habitat. The trouble is, there's not much of that left around here anymore.
The blue gum plantations have become a favourite habitat for the koala colonies since they were planted on the island 30 years ago, a timber industry start-up that's since been declared unviable. So, for 18 months, they've been cutting them down. There are 20,000 hectares of these blue gums to clear. One employee told me they've barely made a dent. It will take
years. No one is fighting to save these trees, but the reality is they've become home to the island's koala population. But critics point out the koala is an introduced species to Kangaroo Island. While endangered in eastern states, they are predicted to rapidly overpopulate here, destroying native trees, threatening the environment. But the koala campaigners say this is not the way to deal with them.
You're just kind of creating a perfect storm for an ecological disaster.
The company's promised a thorough investigation if evidence is provided. Tonight, 7 News has sent them the videos. Campaigners want the logging paused until a solution is found.
Surely someone can come up with some sort of strategy.
Well, I say that's nonsense. Everyone likes koalas, let's face it. But the fact of the matter is there's too many, and there isn't another solution.
I don't think putting your head in the sand or pretending it isn't happening is the right thing to do. You can't just kill animals because they're inconvenient.
Fearing a national icon is becoming collateral damage in the race to clear land. Chris Reason, 7 News.
Tuesday's weather outlook is ahead, and who needs flower girls when you can have flower grannies, the proud as punch-nonners who made this wedding procession, and it has the internet crying happy tears. That's next on the latest from 7 News.
What started with a passenger list led me to discover the incredible story of my great-great-great Aunt Mary.
There could be more to your story too. Piece it together with Ancestry.
Over 16,500 New South Wales police are out there, and police vehicles can detect drivers speeding anywhere, anytime. Speeding? You can stop it or cop it.
Footy season's here. Get on board.
Tonight, the Wilsons are serving steak with a side of bragging about their home loan.
They call me the mortgage maestro.
Don't be bitter, get a better deal. Westpac Home Loans. That's Sandra's problem solved.
11 essential vitamins and minerals, low GI, protein.
It's amazing what they squeeze into an Up and Go.
We squeeze more good stuff in, so you can get more out. Also available in Up and Go Protein.
This week's Oz Lotto jackpot is $8 million. With an $8 million jackpot this Tuesday, make sure you've got your Oz Lotto ticket.
Bang, bang on my drum, my tribe's everywhere. Colours what you want. Living my best life. Do what I feel like. Living my best life.
You and me, we're gonna make a memory.
Aldi's Aussie Beef stir-fry strips are now just $19.99 per kilo. They're great for Asian, Mexican, Martian? Aldi. Good. Different.
Honda's SUV range is crafted to perfection. Take the sleek design, the spacious interior. Show me more! For a limited time, enjoy 7-year warranty, 7-year roadside assist and 5 standard low price services.
Are you a motoring enthusiast? Shannons are giving you the chance to win a USA Supercars drive experience at the Circuit of the Americas and Las Vegas racetracks. Drive a Ferrari, Lamborghini and Porsche. Visit Dallas, Austin, Las Vegas and LA. The trip for two includes airfares, luxury accommodation and $10,000 spending money for eligible Shannons Club members. Plus, win a new Indian Motorcycle Sport Chief. To enter, take out new Shannons insurance on your special car, daily drive, bike or home. Go online or call Shannons on 13 46 46.
Can the lightning bolt outthink a hypnotist?
Can you make someone act like a chicken?
Yep. I don't want you to use your hypno superpowers.
You the Chase, weekdays.
Hello, we'll take a look now at what the weather is doing across the country tomorrow. Starting in the capitals firstly, a shower or two in Brisbane, partly cloudy in Sydney, mostly fine in Canberra and Melbourne, a top of 24 degrees in Hobart, warm and fine in Adelaide and Perth, and a possible storm in Darwin. In the regional centres, it is a drizzly Tuesday for Port Douglas, a sunny day in store for Bourke, and 39 degrees is the maximum in Roxby Downs tomorrow. In tonight's final frame, two flower girls who stole the show. South Australian bride Michaela Treloar was determined to have both her grandmother and her groom's grandmother involved in their big day. So they bestowed a very important role. It is usually reserved for the youngest members of the wedding party, not this time. Each of their very proud nonnas brought a smile to everyone as they walked down the aisle tossing white petals. The procession is melting hearts online too, with more than 10 million views. When told of their newfound fame, one of the grannies asked, "What the hell is TikTok?" Our final frame. I have a teenage daughter. I know exactly what TikTok is. Thank you for your company this Monday. From the 7 News team, that is the latest. I'm Robert Ovadia. Good night.
Stream 7 News anytime, live and on demand on 7 Plus. And with 7news.com.au, you'll know the news now.